Carolyn Harris.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I'd like to start by congratulating the Honourable Member for Gedlin for not only today's debate but the excellent way that he takes a lead on this very important issue. I'd also like to congratulate the members for Bristol East and North West, for Rochdale and for Nottingham North for their excellent contributions today. But I'd like to pay special tribute to the members from Birmingham Yardley and Livingston for bringing the real-life consequences of the evil practice of slavery into the chamber today. The Modern Slavery Act 2015 was, when this House passed it, a landmark piece of legislation which provided leadership on a global scale. However, the lack of subsequent legislation has meant that it now risks becoming less effective on key issues of the fight against modern slavery. And Madam Deputy Speaker, I will start by setting the scene. 45.8 million people are enslaved worldwide. This can be anything from forced labour, forced marriage and forced sexual exploitation. And in the UK, one of the most developed countries in the world, there are underestimated to be around 13,000 people in modern-day slavery today. And this is far too many. And as was alluded by the Honourable Member for Equalities, companies who have made statements under Section 54 of the Act are in the minority. The majority have not. And those who have made a statement, the quality ranges from very good, and I would specifically name Marks and Spencer's and the Cooperative, to virtually worthless. Yet ministers have done nothing to address this, leaving businesses free to carry on and to take no action, despite what this House legislated for. We must put into place a regime where this House can be confident that its wishes, as expressed, and that the commitment to the Modern Slavery Act is fulfilled. So I ask the Minister, when will the government publish a list of all companies that should be producing statements regarding their modern slavery policies? Now, we all acknowledge the police do a fantastic job when they protect and rescue individuals from slavery. But the HMIC report published earlier this week was a stark reality check for us all. The report tells us that all too often the traffickers' threats to the victims that they have no means of escape, as they will not be believed, have sadly become a self-fulfilling prophecy. The report's biggest critique outlined the policing surrounding modern slavery and human trafficking is reactive rather than proactive. So more must be done to support vulnerable people to ensure that they will not be placed in the hands of traffickers. It is vital that we learn how traffickers prey on their victims so that we are able to be more effective with preventions and protections. So does the Minister agree with me that there's a real need to improve training for police to help them better understand how to identify victims and how best to respond to the issues? Now I'd like to move on to the problematic national referral mechanism. Adults are required to consent to their referral, but without appropriate funding, support and accommodation and a suitable environment when they could get proper advice to allow them to make informed decisions, far too many turn to homelessness or, even worse, return to their traffickers. All too often, NRM forms are rushed just to make sure that the person concerned has access to accommodation. This means that at times forms are incomplete or contain inaccurate information, and this undermines the individual's credibility. Legal advice and representation must be offered early to all potential victims to support them in understanding their rights, giving them access to justice and a real opportunity to move on with their lives. Government support is withdrawn quickly after a conclusive groundwork decision is made. And NGOs are all too often having to pick up the pieces because of a lack of resources and a lack of awareness amongst local authorities. Safe house accommodation should be more flexible, with support diminishing gradually according to an individual's needs and not just the rug pulled out from under them. Not only is this lack of support detrimental to the individuals, it makes it difficult for police and prosecutors to do their job. Police have spoken about losing survivors due to lack of support. NGOs have spoken about their anxiety caused by an insecure immigration status and how that prevents survivors in dealing with their traumatic experiences. Victims are entitled to only 45 days of NRM support following rescue. This is simply not enough. And regardless of how well organised that 45 days support is, it's still not enough. Many of those rescues want to regain control of their lives through schemes like the Co-op's project, Bright Future, which gives them a pathway back to paid employment. But they cannot, because either they have not had the support to get them ready for work, or they don't have the legal right to work. Victims continue to be denied access to the vital services that they need to recover and rebuild their lives. Authorities often prioritise immigration control over the safety of victims. This can leave adults and children vulnerable to going missing. Traffickers see these individuals as vulnerable, and the current system is being exploited by the traffickers and their evil and despicable practices. I welcome the fact that the NRM is being reformed, but I hope that during the reform process, organisations such as the Human Trafficking Organisation, EPCAP UK and UNICEF are listened to, and that their advice is heeded. Slavery touches our lives every day, whether we know it or not. No country is free from this horrific crime, and no one is safe. Women, men, youngsters, and worse still, children are vulnerable. Exploitation on any level is unjustifiable, but when it involves a child, it is chillingly deplorable. And a huge concern of mine is that within the national referral mechanism, there is no specialist support or accommodation for trafficked children. I would urge the Minister to address this as a matter of urgency. We passed the legislation 2 years ago, but it has been left to go stale, either through a lack of enforcement, a lack of additional legislation, or a lack of desire. Victims of modern slavery and trafficking are still being criminalised for crimes they were forced to commit. There is no clear pathway or continuity of support for victims, and inconstant training and coordination of services that are in place to protect them can hinder through lack of knowledge and appropriate training and funding. We are dealing with the most vulnerable individuals. This is a modern scourge with historical roots. Too many people are relying on us to protect them from danger and to offer them support. So we must make sure that the service that we offer is robust, reliable and effective.